It's just wonderful to be here at Mr. Henry's. I'm Sandra Butler-Truesdale speaking with DeAndrey Howard, one of
Yeah.
the greatest trumpet players that I know.
Shh.
Notice I said that I know.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
High Sweet Edison was another one,
Yes.
that I
Great.
admire. And a great club owner as well. I'm so pleased to be here with you, DeAndre,
Thank you.
and I want to talk with you a little bit about your history in particular. So, can you start me out telling me when you knew that you were able and could play the trumpet?
I knew that about the age of 13 after I got out of elementary, seventh grade. And it wasn't trumpet. I just got like music in because my whole family are musicians. I'm the youngest. So I started on clarinet because I wanted to play saxophone because I thought it was cool. How you hold on the side. So they didn't have no saxophone left over at LA Junior High. So Mr. Roberts said, "Go play clarinet." And so I learned clarinet, played in the concert band, but I played it on the side like a saxophone. And he didn't like that. And then one of my brothers, Joe Howard, a drummer, he's passed now, but him and his friends found an old raggedy trumpet in the trash can. They brought it home, cleaned it up, came in the house, threw it at me, and I caught it. They said, "You got them big lips. See if you can play this trumpet." So I picked the trumpet up and blew a perfect C. My mother came run out. My father come run out. "Who was that?" And they say, "That was him." And so that was the beginning of playing trumpet. Then I got to seventh grade, and all in school, you're all through junior high and high school. I played clarinet or played first snare or timpani drum in school. I didn't play trumpet, and then my senior year at Easton, the music teacher and all the other English teachers came and said, "We hear you're a good trumpet player outside." I was playing all these number one bands. So they threatened me. They said, "If you don't play trumpet, first trumpet in the concert band, you ain't gonna graduate." And I believe me, I was still a kid, and they couldn't do that. But they heard so much about me on trumpet, they made me play trumpet, and the rest is history. Played in funk band, but then when the funk band started coming with the synthesizers, I said, "I don't want to be no teacher. So I said, let me go to jazz, migrate to play jazz music. And that's when I started, playing that and meeting, Ronnie Wells, Steve Novosel, and all the older cats who would cuss me out because I couldn't play no jazz. So they cracked the whip on me, my brother, my cousin Charlie, with all them cats, they stayed on me until I got together.
But you play several different genres of music. That's
Yeah.
one of the things that I know about you.
Yeah, and I started in the funk scene.
Yeah.
That's why people say he's the jazz musician. I said, no, I'm the opportunist musician because when I stopped playing funk was because they stopped using the horn sections in the music.
Well, one thing that I know about that because in listening to Ron Holloway,
Yeah.
if you play all genres, you're always working.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that he and I talk about all the time because Ron plays everything, including gospel,
Right.
and he's always in demand.
Yeah,
So
me and him did several over the year. When I first met him, he had me on recording sessions with him and Greg Boyer, and I was that young trumpet player that what got me over because my tone. I had good range and good tone. And Ron showed me that I did a gig a few years back, come on the gig to play horn. And I said, "Who's the sax player?" They say, "Ron Holloway." And then he jumped up, "Hey, boy." And that was so much fun to play because I hadn't played with him in years.
Yeah.
But he's played, me and him worked together as me as a trumpet player or a drummer.
Yeah. And someone else that I noticed who can play almost all genres is Eddie Conagher.
Oh, yeah.
He's a monster.
Yeah.
He plays everything.
Remember when he had that band, he was in that band, him and Tillery called the Epsilon.
Yeah, the Epsilon. And I heard you and Steve talking a little bit because he played at Ed Murphy's.
Yeah.
Up on Georgia Avenue.
Yep.
Because you all were talking and I was listening carefully because being old school and being a DC girl, that's what
Right.
they used to call us, DC
Right.
girl, uptown girl.
Right.
And I was listening and thinking about the different clubs. And I thought about the Hollywood
Yeah.
on 9th Street. And it was a time when you could go out and you could go to the clubs and not be worried about whether there was danger involved.
That's right.
So I'm one of those people who used to go because I love all kinds of music.
Mm-hmm.
DeAndre, I used to go. Sometimes I used to even travel to State Street in Philadelphia. I would get on bus or on the train and go to Philly and just go and listen to the music.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I also like would go to the Hollywood and go upstairs and listen to music with no worries.
Right.
I love to hear you play the trumpet. So I am always interested in the fact that you play all those different genres of music, especially when we go down to Westminster.
Yeah.
You know, and I be hearing you really do the get down.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah. I would Dick always compliment me on. He said, "Man, you come out here, you really throw down." I say, "I got to. That's what y'all expect me to do."
For
you
real.
know? So I gotta come in there because I done came in there and been sick and had to play while I was sick. But once you get the playing, put the horn to your mouth, all the sickness goes away until you finish the gig. Then it's like, oh. You know.
Yeah. Speaking of being sick, you and I have had several conversations about your health.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we talked about as far as DC Legendary Musicians is concerned is the things that we do to assist musicians
Yes.
with health and welfare.
Mhm.
And so just talking about that a little bit, one of the ladies that helps us a lot helped get your Medicaid back intact because you already had it,
Yeah.
to get your Medicaid back intact so that you were able to get whatever treatment you needed.
Yeah,
So
Cheryl.
Cheryl Smith.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about where you are now health-wise.
Well, now I've changed my doctor and I'm still in the doctor's care. But they, this new doctor is re-examined because said it was my appendix. And then they never took it out because my blood pressure skyrocketed and I never had high blood pressure. But I think they were just using up my insurance. So I feel normal. Some mornings I wake up and it's not a good day. Internally, I be aching all over. And those mornings I just stay in the house and pray. But the main thing, I'm better because they released me to play my trumpet because I couldn't play my trumpet for a whole year.
Mhm.
And that was bad because that made me depressed. And I've never been depressed. And I was asking, and they said, well, you sound like depressed. So first thing doctor want to do is give me a whole lot of pills. They had already gave me enough drugs. And I was like, I don't want no more drugs. So I got better at the time. And I started, as time went on, started playing my horn slowly. Now I've done several gigs, but I'm better. I'm back to my old self. And everybody say, well, he's getting better because he's talking trash and making us all laugh, because everybody know I'm gonna talk a whole lot of trash.
Yes, you are.
If I'm sick, I'm just like this. I have no comment. I have nothing to say. So I'm better now.
Well, I'm glad to know that.
God will keep me that way.
Now let's move on to Alice's.
Yeah.
Because we were all really disturbed when we thought that Alice was going to close.
Well, it was.
Yeah.
Because with my illness happening, and then she's done had, when she had that major stroke that put her in the nursing home, and then she's in the hospital and touch and go. Now she has, the disease when you can't remember. Dementia.
Dementia, yeah.
Yeah, so she won't be back. She'll be coming back like her son to bring her to the club. Because when I go to visit her, she got about an hour in her to where she can talk and know what's going on. Not that she's tired. So I was, I didn't want to run this club by myself. And when I got into it, it's been my dream and her dream. So we're there together. Now it's me running everything. And I'm not really, I opened the club because the family asked me to stay and run it and do like I did before. But I'm just, not that interested. But what's getting me interested is the people that everybody wants it. And it's became a legacy in my hometown. Well, me and Shad talk about that all the time.
One of the things is we've lost so many of our venues.
Yes.
And I don't just think, I know that so many of us that love the music, not only the jazz, but music, period.
Yes.
We're looking for a home for music.
That's right.
And so it was disturbing to at least not have Alice's there.
Oh, my phone was blowing up, internet, everything, because everybody's like, why are you gonna close? I said, well, I'm sick and I can't do all this, and I was getting so many calls. That's why I just cut everything off. You know, like they got my new number.
Mhm.
But I was just like, because, you know, growing up in this town and being in all the #1 clubs, I remember what Mr. Moore, what Nancy, Mr. Y would tell me. They say, yeah, boy, you want to, because I was young, I said, I want to open up a club. They like, boy, you don't want to do this, you know. I said, I can handle it. And they saw I could handle it. But after I being sick, and then all the headaches and musicians, me included, you know, but as a businessman, I'm not that temperamental musician no more. But the other musicians are. And just opening that club up and having to deal when you book people in and the musicians come and they got an attitude and all this stuff. And I'm like,
For real.
yeah, you know, and they look at me and everybody know I'm quick to say, look here, you know.
And they looking to you for everything. And I think that's what people don't understand. And one of the things that I find in promoting music, people, right now I'm getting ready to do something for the neighborhood where I live. And for some reason, people expect for musicians to perform for nothing.
For free.
And I'm trying to, this is a business. Do you all understand that this is a profession and these people do this for a living? This is not a dog and pony show.
That's right.
So if you don't have the money, don't expect for them to come and kick and dance and then go home. If you don't have the money, then you go kick and dance. And they get upset with me when I say that, but no, we're not doing it for $0.
That's what I tell them. I say, you know, I can't. I'm too old to be coming out playing for free now. I say, now, I come and play for free like you used to tell me about that jam session y'all had. If it's a session and I know about it and I'm not tired, not free, I'm coming to the session because I get to see people I haven't seen.
Exactly.
And then you're jamming is nothing but a party.
Right.
You know, you can leave when you're ready to leave. You ain't got to stay no designated time, you know. So I just tell people, because I mean, the club, people come to like, we're a 501c3 organization. So many organizations come to me and want to give something. The first thing they say, well, I say, well, no, we're a 501. So are we.
Yeah.
And I say, well, where does that leave us? Because I say, you got to pay me something because I'm not opening this place up because you've been in the club, you've seen all the antique artwork and how the club is done. Beautiful PA system, top flight. I say that stuff don't run off water.
Exactly.
Know? And then I gotta have a staff on duty to make sure people ain't.
And you gotta pay the electric bill.
Yes.
You know, and the gas bill and the rent and all that stuff has to be paid.
Well, a lot of them get mad at me. You know, either then I say, well, look, if you can't afford to pay us, have the party in your apartment or your house, you know. And then they get huff and puff at me, but they always come back.
It's okay, bye.
Is that what I think?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
But and I tell you the other part of that now, one of the things that I've been doing for the last 5 years is to work real closely with the Kennedy Center to have them to honor the talent of Black musicians in this town. And not just honor their talent, but to pay them and pay them good.
Yeah.
So I've been working real hard to make that happen. And so now we have done it at the Millennium Stage level for the last 5 years. And now we're moving on into the concert hall because we deserve, because the Kennedy Center happens to be on the property where Black people live. People don't know that. If you don't know, you better ask somebody. Do some research. That was a Black neighborhood that they took and they built the Kennedy Center on that.
I remember when they built it.
You see? And so having said that, and then Ella Fitzgerald and Billy Taylor and some other Black musicians started to work with the Kennedy Center to do some things for Black entertainers to actually really have a voice there.
Right.
So having said that, they sort of kind of died out and that fell through the cracks. So I'm doing research to find why did it fall through the cracks?
Right.
Now, why can't we replace it? Let's do this again. You see? And then when sometimes they find Black artists to come in there. So, excuse me, people, they end up with some toms that either don't care to share it with other.
That's right.
You see? I'm just telling you the whole truth.
I'm saying what you said because I like that.
So let's go by that and find some real people and let's work with that and make sure that we are doing it like it's supposed to be done. I'm not saying I know everything, DeAndre, but what I do know, according to my record, I try to share it with the real people
Yeah.
who deserve
And
it.
that's what's supposed to be shared. Some of these cats, like when I was talking to Steve, some of these cats, they don't want to share. They come in and don't want to talk about the history and what made it happen.
What made it happen?
You know, what made this city what it is. You know, they get bored with it. I say, how you gonna get bored with your own history, man?
Well, see, I think that the history sometimes it is very hurtful.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we don't want to share it with our young people.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard and it's hurtful. But if we don't share it, we haven't shared it. And so we are repeating it over and
That's
over
right.
again. If we don't tell these young people how they got where they're going,
Mm-hmm.
they are going to continue to repeat what we've already done.
That's right.
So now, I'm not saying that I know everything. I know what I've lived through.
Mm-hmm.
I've experienced it firsthand. I didn't read it in a book.
Right.
I experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
So all I want to do is make sure that I share it with these young people and that I push them forward so that they don't have to do it again.
My sentiments exactly. You know, because they like to come and talk to me. The young people like to talk to me, and I tell them what time it is, what they got to do.
And stay woke.
Yeah,
Wake up.
Yeah, stay awake. Because I always, what on Facebook, I would post up something about history, and my line was always "Wake up, people."
Yeah, wake up.
Wake up. See what's happening.
See, and the other part of that, and I say this to my white friends, Blair Rubel and that whole group,
Mm-hmm.
I say, y'all can't handle the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. I know you can't, but I'm gonna tell it to you anyway.
Right.
Dude, I'm gonna tell it to you anyway, and it's up to you to handle it.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna stay on that because we're talking about you
Mm-hmm.
and your career. And so I want to know a little bit more about the things that you do, because I know, see, you're a rebel like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
A rebel with a cause, not without a cause.
Now, with a cause.
Yeah, rebel with a cause.
Everybody have called me a rebel because I'm quick to complain if something ain't right. And if I see something that's not right in the club, I go into musicians and tell them.
Mm-hmm.
But my career just started with the funk, you know, doing the funk, because a lot of the number one bands in the city from the 60s all the way to the 70s, I had the pleasure of playing with those bands. Mm-hmm. And when I got with the band, the timing was right because they became number one. We were under Dimensions, Bill Washington, Dimensions, and then Charisma Production with the group. You know, we're under all them things and got the artists traveling with those groups. And I was like thrust out there, you know, because back in the day they called me Blow.
Mm-hmm.
Because the women couldn't remember DeAndrey, so they would always say Diablo. And then Roosevelt, Smith, God rest his soul, and Keith Holmes, all the other musicians, Mike Jones, and them. But me and Mike was in that group, the Matadors together. They say, Diablo, man, you blow horn, we're going to call you Blow. And that name stuck. Because, I mean, if I'm walking somewhere, somebody say, Blow, I say, that's somebody from the 70s.
Yeah.
So, you know, playing all them kind of groups and made money and traveling and stuff. And then as time changed, you know, when those synthesizers came in, because my mother would always say, well, why don't you go to college? I said, I don't want to go to college. You know, I hated school. I graduated, you know, had my honors and stuff. I didn't even walk off the stage because I did a gig with Bobby Womack, you know, on my senior year. So I dropped out. My dad said, you can drop out. Why don't you promise to go back and finish? Mm-hmm. And he said, oh, I'll kill you. And my dad
they used to tell you that.
Yeah, my dad was a 6-foot tall dude. Mama's 4'11", and she put her arm up like this. I was scared to death. You know, I was like, yeah, I'll come back. And I came back and then continued that. And, you know, and then when I got into that jazz thing, when I started doing the jazz, learning the jazz, I sucked. You know, Charlie Handel cursed me out. Rick Henderson, you know, all the big boys. I mean, I got cursed out on a regular basis. Cousins, brothers, what the heck are you doing? Boy, don't tell nobody you can't see how to play that horn. I heard that all the time, you know. And, you know, and then I just had to apply myself. You know, my brother, he'd come in and throw Miles Davis' greatest hits album at me. Listen to this. And then they throw blues charts at me, and I just kept practicing. And then they stopped calling me Little Joe, because everybody called me Little Joe after him. Then they started calling me DeAndrey. And he would say, boy, they talking about you, man, because all the guys are coming talking to me about, man, your kid brother can play pretty good.
Yeah, you did. You established yourself.
Yeah, I had to pay them dues.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And there was plenty of times where I look up and say, Lord, why am I doing this?
Yeah, because you know what? I was thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking about my Uncle Blayton, who was a jazz fanatic. As a matter of fact, I still have some of his albums. And this dude used to play jazz. He would play Miles Davis and High Sweets Edison.
Yeah.
And he did that. He played that and played the television at the same time. All of that was going on. You know, Carter Jefferson lived across the street from us. So all that, and Carter was playing the saxophone. And, you know, you could hear Carter on one side, and then you could hear my uncle on the other side, you know, and I was like, oh my goodness, listen to all of this. But on the other side of that, I remember Bill Harris playing guitar. And I also remember the Clovers that, you know, that sang Mint Julep, and all of this was going on around me. So I was hearing all of this music, you know, and in the meantime, I was hearing you, Curtis Pope.
Yeah.
I was hearing Wilson Pickett.
Yeah.
All these people I was hearing in my head. So it just gave me a love for all of the music. And in the meantime, I was hearing Happy Am I, Happy Am I, Elder Mishaw marching across the street at 23rd Georgia Avenue, going to Griffith Stadium in the cross choir, the first 150 voice choir going across Georgia Avenue to the baptism. And this may sound confusing to people, but all this music, they asked me in the other interview, where did I start this music? But all this music was in my ear because Elder Mishaw had the first band. You know, most of churches didn't have bands.
Tambourine shakers.
Tambourine shakers and bands. And Daddy Grace.
Yep.
Daddy Grace had the baddest trombone band in the world.
Yeah.
And they still have it. They still, if you go down there on the 22nd of August, they will have convocation in the middle of the street, and they will be playing the baddest music that you ever heard in your whole lifetime. So I can't even explain what that does to you.
Oh, well, that does a whole lot, because us growing up, and music grabbed a hold of me when we lived at Kentucky Avenue on East Capitol Street. We lived right across from Lincoln Park. And Bo Diddley used to come to our house, Muddy Waters, and then Hockaday, you know, Al Johnson, all them. But they, Bruce Marshall, he was a drummer, and he lived on 12th Street. We were at East Capitol, Kentucky. So he had all them guys. Al Johnson would come by and come to the house and play. The musicians, all kind of music was in our house 24/7.
Billy Stewart?
Yeah. He used to come in there all the time.
Greg Gaskins?
Yeah, and all them Greg. I remember. And then I was a young guy, so they come in the house. First thing they do, if I'm sitting or standing talking like this, bam, they steal me in my chest. And my mother would start crying. They said, "Oh, that's gonna make a man out the boy." You know, I hated them, but I got used to. My dad and uncle used to do all that stuff to me. But all that music was just so around you so much. And then my mother, she's a piano player, and she would always play, which became one of my favorite songs. So Many Stars, a song that Mendes Brazil 66 did. Everybody else had done it since. And she'd wake us up in the morning, she's playing that and singing it. And that would just wake us up in the morning, you know. Now, Daddy, he wake you up with that blues on the guitar and get the hollering, and you wake up like this, holding your head, and look at him, and in your mind, you're cursing him out, you know. Because you ain't want to hear all that mess early in the morning, you know. But it was just so much fun. I guess that's what made me pick up the harmonica, you know, because, you know, I never thought I'd be no harmonica player, but all of a sudden, a guy named Joe Gatlin, he was working with, because I wonder what happened to him. And years ago, I was living down in Clinton with my brother, and I went to the school to take the kid to school, and they had a band in there. And I was asking him what happened to Joe Gatlin. Who I see up here playing saxophone, Joe Gatlin. And he looked at me, and my nickname is Butchie. And he always called, he said, "Butch." I said, "Joe, I was just talking about you." And he played sax, flute, and played a haunting harmonica. And he said, man, I've been hearing about you on the harmonica. I said, man, why you ain't reach out to me? He said, man, I don't reach out to people,
But someplace that we actually have not talked about, I haven't heard anybody talk about it since we've been here today, is A-Barts.
I remember
A-Barts
that
on U Street between 9th and 10th Street.
Right.
Is where Aretha Franklin first started, when she first hit Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
When I was working with Lucille Banks Robinson Miller at WYCB, her and her dad used to come to the station. And when she started to venture out from gospel, her brother brought her to A-Barts.
A-Barts.
And people were saying, oh, she can't sing. Oh, no. And that broad hit one note, and the whole restaurant club fell out.
That
okay,
sounds
they was
right.
like, oh,
that sounds
MG. Right. Yeah.
But DC was known to be like a kickoff ground because we were so hard on any artist.
No, if you can make it in DC, they would tell you that. If you can make it in DC, you can make it anywhere.
That's right.
Because if you came to the Howard Theater short,
yeah,
you never would play again. Okay? You would never play any place again because the audience was like, no.
That's something I've been looking for. Excuse me, some of that footage of the Howard Theater, because back in late 60s, they'd have you play there. We had a group, me and Ricky Holmes had a group called the Young Diplomats. And we played up at Howard Theater for them talent shows, and our group won a lot of times. And they would take video footage, and I wonder whatever happened to that footage. I'd like to see it.
And you know what? I've been working with Chip Ellis, trying to find a lot of that.
Just like the Showmobile.
Yeah. And that's another thing, DeAndre. I'm trying to get someone to finance the Showmobile again.
Yeah.
Because it's so important.
Yeah, just like the Showmobile. I mean, they did when they first started having the concerts up on the Silver Theater. That was the Human Kindness Day.
Yes.
And I remember playing out there this group called Rare Funk Ghetto, and Marshall Keys and Shad had Smoke. And we came on before, they came on before us, and we came on behind them. And they were bad, and our band was bad. The Rare Funk Ghetto. I mean, it was just, that's what me and Marshall and Shad laugh about. Because whenever Shad rides by the house and I'm out there, we stop and talk. And I always congratulate him. I say, man, you have made your mark and you're a hometown boy. He said, you're doing the same thing,
Yeah.
But I'm just proud of it. And Mike Jones, I'm proud of that
Mike,
cat.
yeah, Mike's a bad dude.
Doing the Matadors, he just played rhythm guitar. And he didn't get a lot of credit. But I could tell this guy was good because he wrote Hey You for Simba and the other groups he had. And he's become a prolific writer nowadays.
But let's go back and think about the Coat Lounge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Coat Lounge on 14th Street, right next door to the spa.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about Bobby Timmons and Lee Morgan, because I heard Steve mention Bobby Timmons.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Timmons was one of the baddest piano players you ever did hear.
Yeah.
And Lee Morgan I loved Lee Morgan. I was so sorry when he had that crazy incident.
Yeah.
But Washington, D.C. was the kind of town that musicians loved to come to. And most of the time they would come here and want to stay.
Yeah.
They would pitch up a tent and say, okay, this is my home
base.
As well as Lloyd Price came here and decided to move here. And a lot of musicians did that.
And they probably got that from their parents, because my parents told us once we started, going on the road and stuff, once the tour ended, they said, don't come back here. You see the world. So like first time I went on tour, when the tour ended, after that short thing about Womack, I lived in Portland, Oregon. I lived in Moscow, Idaho. I lived in California, all the continent of the United States, and because I don't want to live. I want to see, the mother and father always said, don't live and die in the city we're born in.
Well, here's the thing. Before the developers took over, people used to say, if you can't make it in Washington, D.C., you can't make it anyway because the cost of living was low and housing was low. And I said that in an earlier interview. My mother bought a 7-bedroom house with an attic, full attic, and a full lower level for $14,500 on the corner, detached, 801 Barnum Street Northwest.
Like my parents.
So if the cost of living was easy. And so people would come here and they came here because of that. But now that you got involved in the politics and the developers have taken over, now people can hardly afford to live here.
Yeah, because that house, we grew up on Kentucky Avenue in East Capitol, big corner house, 3 stories, and it was pink. And my parents owned that house. I mean, it had a full basement, you know, that's where all the music came from. And, I mean,
the same thing. I used to have Jackie Lee and them rehearsing in the basement. I know my neighbors were so sick of us.
I've been knowing Jackie Lee for a long time.
Man.
I met him when he was Sergio in the Free Throw.
Yeah, Sergio.
Yeah.
And they would come and practice in our basement.
Yeah.
Shh. My uncle had an after-hour joint. So we had everything down there. We had a bar and a you know, the Nickelodeon thing.
Yeah.
And, oh man, we was really getting down.
Back at that time when they practiced in your basement, I was playing with Louis Rogers' band. He had a band called Marie Allen and the Magnificent Seven.
Wait a minute, you know who else lived in my bar?
Who?
King Raymond.
Oh yeah, Raymond Green.
He lived one door from me.
Yeah,
so you know, we used to really perform.
Yeah. I was so sorry when he passed, man.
That was sad.
Yeah, because Raymond, I remember he put that band together called the Headliners. And I mean, then I worked with a group with him. I think it was when it was like, I think he was with that group that Jonell Gray started Count Boogie and the Funk Festival because me and Ray Thompson, the sax player for Black Heat, we were the horn section of that band. And I keep forgetting about that band because Jonell would come out with the black hat and the big old cape, come say Count Boogie, man. And we would just be dying laughing, you know. And when Jonell lived over on Potomac Avenue, you know, I lived over East Capitol Street. But see, I forget a lot of them stories. It takes y'all to talk to me and make it clear.
Make it come back.
Right.
You know
I
what
said,
I'm
I played with them, you know, and that was fun. I mean, we did a lot of fun gigs and stuff, but that group wasn't meant to stay together long.
But it's a lot of history. And that's one of the things that I try to do is restore and preserve that history. But I tell you, DeAndre, it's been so wonderful talking to you. I don't know whether there are any other questions for you, but it's been so wonderful talking to you and restoring or talking about or bringing back the history.
And that's what I want to do. That's one thing that's pushing me to try to hold on and get this club back open because the club, the stuff inside dictates the history and then it makes people engage, you know, and I still want to do a thing where, like, you know, similar to what they're doing here, you know, except I said mine would be probably a little bit X-rated because I cats do what they do and get the talking track because when we were open after the club would, you know, after the people would leave, the people who don't know me and the regular folks come by, the other musicians coming from their gig, on the way gig, they stop by and come in there and have a drink and the conversation started to fly. And Dr. Alton would say, why don't you record it? And I asked the guy, they said, yeah, D, we trust you, go and record it. But I just had
try to do it because I tell you what, one of the reasons I'm saying that is my cousin Gerald, who knew so much about this history, jazz history, DC jazz history, he would talk to me, especially when I do Live at 5 on WPFW. After I would get off the radio, he would start to talk, he would call me and talk to me about the different musicians. Unfortunately, I did not record him and he passed away. And now all I have is he said, and I don't have it by recording. So try to record it because it's important.
Yeah, I am, you know, because I mean, just like talking to Steve, man, and
It's important that we get Steve, I'm telling you. It's important that we get his stuff documented. Because he has a lot of history. I mean, I was back there just kind of smiling and laughing. You know, you laugh at what he's saying, but it's so true. When he said he pulled out the 45, I fell on the floor. Shout out all the time.
I can see that's like when he said, I got a lot of stories, but I can't tell you. I say, I've heard them stories, you know. And all them cats, they always, when they see me, you know, and they grabbed me, even the lady grabbed me and pulled me and come here, let me tell you something. Started telling me stories. I mean, like, especially when they're real funny stories. I said, look, I gotta get on stage. You start telling me stories, I'm gonna get to laughing on stage in the middle of the song, and they say, you be all right, and then I'm playing, I look at them, then I bust out laughing in the middle of the song and can't finish the song because what they done told me, it hits me again.
Steve and Dick Smith, they
Oh
both
yeah,
beasts.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Now
They
Keita
beasts.
Betts had some stories
I
too.
know. You know what?
Ooh.
Keita, just before he passed, I was managing a club on 14th Street, and he came and he told me so much stuff. He had me almost on the floor laughing. He was so funny. He could just tell you some story, and I was in awe because he had played with so many people.
Yeah.
And the way that he would tell the story was just,
oh yeah,
oh my God.
The next day he died because I saw him up at Artscape up in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And he was playing. He said, Andre, what you gonna pass? I'm here, my lady, she's vending. He said, you got your horn with you? I say, nope, I didn't bring my horn. And he does, because him and Shirley used to always say, you better put a raggedy trumpet or something in your car. Keep a horn with you all the time because you never know when somebody's going to call you for a gig. And then he told me he was going to be at that theater on 450 over there in Bladensburg the next day. And he said, come on by. I was going to come by. And then woke up that morning and heard he had died. Yeah. You know, I was like,
he was a cool cat.
Yeah. And he told me what he had when we did that thing for Quincy Jones and Clarence Atman at the Sheraton up there on thing, and Bill Clinton was president. He came, they had security and all that. And Keita, he's paying us so much money. And, I when I just started, getting the suit, but I had them little cheap $99 suits, and they had the big cameras on me and stuff, and the producers, I'm on drums, and Keita just put the band together. Wes and Vincent Smith was on the piano and bass, and I'm sitting on the drum with my suit on. The producer came to me and said, "Drummer, take that cheap jacket off," because I had my tie and shirt. They said, "Do that because the lights was showing that suit up, man." And then Keita came to me after we did the recording. The first set. He say, Andre, I'm paying you big money. Stop going to the little Spanish stores. He say, go to Joshua Banks or Men's Warehouse. And then Wes and Vince, they had that Teller guy making their shirts and their suits. So I started doing that. But Keita would laugh every time he see me. After that, I started, dressing real good. And that got me into noticing, when new anchor people come on TV, they had them cheap suits. And then once they start getting good and get their money, they had to talk them suits out because you're on camera. You got to get some real clothes.
Yeah, real clothes.
And I tell all the young musicians when I was doing the Utopia all them years, Elijah and Elliot Sepper, they would come in there with tennis shoes on, look like they got the tennis shoes from their daddy when he was a kid. And Vince Smith would always say, look, now I'm the guys sitting there, but tell them they got some clothes. So when they come in, Elijah and all them tell the story. When somebody talk about me, they say, when I first met DeAndrey, came and said, first thing he looked at me and say, you got any clothes? Because I say, don't come in here looking like this on my gig. Because when we play, if we are not we don't have a jacket on, we look like the professionals you say you are. And I would tell them, and they, when you see them, now they since we haven't been gigging a lot, back gigging, they gone back to raggedy, but they dress much better than they did. They should come in the joint looking like a ragamuffin.
Well, I used to say this, and I used to tell the ladies that I work with, if I want to see somebody who look like me, and I come to the show to see fashion.
That's right.
If I want them to look like me, I just can go home and look in the mirror and say to myself, see? So, but we, this is not the way,
That's not how the music was born either.
No.
Because the cats come in with the nice suspenders and, the 30s and the 20s. The black folks dressed and the musicians dressed, and that's what I tell, because at the club, at Alice Jazz and Cultural Society, some of the musicians come in, the first year, I say, Al, you're going to have to tell these guys the dress code. Why? They're grown men. I say, they're trying to mix everything with the teenage stuff. And I had to tell one bass player came with boat shoes and one of them plaid shirts, you know, the bass player's name, I can't think of his name.
Don't tell his name.
Yeah, but everybody know I'm that rebel like you.
I know.
I tell him, you know,
Yeah.
the guy, he got mad. I said, well, you got a choice. Either you go find something to put on, or you won't play here. And the whole band will kick your butt because you in the day gig. Because I said, look in the audience. All the women were dressed nice, you know, and most of the men wear a pair of jeans or something. But on stage, you got tennis shoes on, the tongue hanging out. I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
I say, put some clothes on, because I don't perform like that.
Right.
When I come out and go hear somebody, they say, hey, man, come on and sit in. If I'm dressed too raggedy, I'm not going to play because I don't feel good. I mean, I'm dressed, you know, just bummed out. I don't want to get on stage and play because I'm not going to play my best, no matter what the people say and think. I know I'm not playing my best because the people in the audience look better than me.
Yeah.
And you're taught to, you look good, you feel good.
And I think that's a fact.
Yeah.
You have to, but you have to be an example sometimes so that people can aspire, so they can aspire to something. But now I think it's been such a pleasure talking to you and learning more about you. I love interviewing anyway.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I know both of us like to do, we both like to talk.
Yes.
So
well, everybody know I don't like to talk. I always say that on the stage, you know, people, when I come up on and I'm playing and I say a couple words and then I say, y'all know I don't like to talk. Here everybody say shit.
And that's a fact, Jack.
Yeah, that's a fact. My mother and father, I mean, as a kid, I didn't start talking till I was 4 years old. They took me to the doctor. They thought something wrong with me. Doctor, they know I'm me talk. And then when I started talking, my whole family said, we can't get that fool to shut up now. I mean, I just didn't want to talk. That's why, you know, and I didn't coin that phrase to be funny. I was honestly telling people, I don't like to talk. And they say, well, you do talk. I say, people put me in a position to talk, so I have to talk. But they just fall out laughing when I say, y'all know I don't like to talk. The whole crowd start laughing.
Yeah.
Right.
But what I do want to do is I want to thank Herb Scott and company for inviting all of us over to share this history, wonderful history of Washington, D.C. and the music of Washington, D.C. and let them know how much I appreciate this. And it's going into the D.C. Public Libraries, and I'm grateful for the documentation of this history. So with that, we're going to end the interview, and we can, move on to something else.
Yes.
Thank you so much, DeAndrey, for talking to me. I appreciate you.
Anytime.
All right. Okay.
Jazz.
And some more.
Yeah. Anything else is uncivilized. I got that part from Miles Davis. Saw him. Miles is a funny dude too.
Yeah, he was. And I'm gonna tell you this. And this is not on. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
This is not on. I don't know whether this is on camera or not. But look, one day Miles was at the Howard Theater, and so I came in and I paid my little 90 cents, sat down, and Miles came on, and you know what he did? He did that turn your back thing. He did is turn his back to the audience, and was playing the horn. And I said, I know I didn't pay my 90 cents, and he turned his back to me. So I got up, got my went back to. I want my 90 cents back. I refuse to pay 90 cents. No, like 90 cents is a whole lot of money. I refuse to pay 90 cents. And this fool turned his back while he was playing his horn.
Yeah.
And so they looked at me like I was a lunatic. 90 cents.
I'm gonna tell you, I remember you back in the day.
Okay, don't tell it all.
Nah, but I mean, you know, she's one of them fine ladies. As a young boy, you know, I'm a young teenager and see the fine lady like y'all. Now I be looking, and everybody say, "Man, you don't even look. You too young," you know. But you know how when you're young, you're looking at the older women, man, and they coming, and you was coming there styling you and your people, all your crew, and I see Ed Murphy Supper Club.
Yeah, I did.
Because they would let me in that. They tell me, go in there and